Truman unexpectedly encountered the female ghost from Ghost Country. No surprises. Truman dealt with the female ghost with a single sword strike. Before the man could react, he saw a wall disappear in front of his eyes. Truman decided to help the good guy to the end. As a precaution, he took the man to the yamen. When they arrived at the yamen, things were like this. I'll trouble you with the follow-up matters. Luna was very curious. How did you know there was a vengeful spirit there? I used spiritual perception to investigate and felt a strong grudge there. So, I went there to lie in wait. Now Luna is even more curious. Spiritual perception sounds very powerful. I want it too. Truman plans to selflessly dedicate himself. This is a masterpiece created by the predecessor. I casually flipped through it in the afternoon and suddenly enlightened. Luna was stunned. You learned it in just one afternoon. How is that possible? She looked at the content in the book. As long as she closed her eyes, she could feel the breathing of all things. Why does it sound like a lie? At this point, Truman comforted. This requires hard eye. You don't have it yet. Just feel it slowly. Luna was very angry, but had nothing to say. Ghost Country's headquarters. They received a message from 1,000 miles away about the female ghost being killed. Ghost General Piper said, "This is her final message. She suspects she has encountered misfortune. Now even collecting coins will fall into his hands." Is another Ghost General Taoist the Taoist who went on a killing spree in the Ghost Tower? This stinky Taoist has caused trouble repeatedly. We can't just sit and wait for disaster to happen. Another Grand Steward. The King's Seal is about to be broken. It's crucial to gather coins at the moment. With things at this stage, I'd like to hear your plan. If he were really that powerful, he would have come to kill us already. There wouldn't be room for us to discuss. But we still don't know the strength of that Taoist. We'd better kill him as soon as possible to prevent future troubles. You still understand me? In that case, I'll leave this matter to you to handle. Beckett was stunned in place at the moment. Piper sneered. Are you scared now? Beckett could only maintain his composure and replied, Nonsense. I am the top Ghost General. I will go and bring back the head of the Taoist. Now we have spread enough Ghost Copper coins. When the king breaks through the Seal Ghost clan, he will unify the world. That's it. Reach an agreement. What will happen to Beckett's fate? Stay tuned after subscribing. What is the experience of having a koi that can make money as a pet? Little Koi ran to the river as usual to pick up gold coins. At the same time, the General Beckett of Ghost Country sent his men to collect coins. He scattered Ghost Country copper coins everywhere, just as he was feeling pleased with his own cleverness. Little Koi had long seen through his tricks. Why do I keep picking up Hell Passage coins recently? She even started to doubt herself. Am I no longer the master's little Koi? She angrily threw them into the river. She rushed into the Yun Taoist temple with a day's worth of harvest. I'm back. Today was not very lucky. I didn't collect much. Just as Truman was comforting, a woman rushed in. At first glance, it turned out to be Grace Truman, who looked very anxious. Grace asked me what was the matter. I have an unexpected request. Can Truman stay with me for a while? This comes as a bit of a shock to people. Last time, the assassination attempt on my father and me at Blue Wing Tower failed. They will definitely send more advanced assassins to carry out the mission. Truman is quite puzzled. Your father is an official appointed by the court. Isn't the Heavenward Palace Gate going to intervene? If they want my father's life, they will target higher-ranking court officials with more power. Hearing this, Truman couldn't help but be shocked. It's really outrageous. Axel can't help but uphold justice. In broad daylight, unexpectedly, there are traitors colluding with the Blue Wing Tower to harm loyal subjects. You will move to Grace's house tonight. Be sure to protect them father and daughter well. Truman turned around and walked away. He saw Axel crazily hinting over there. In an instant, Truman seemed to understand. Listening to Master's words must be right. Truman agreed like this. It was only right and proper to do so. Grace was very excited. Thank you very much, Axel. Thank you, Truman. But suddenly Truman asked again. What were you implying just now? Axel said again. Some things cannot be said too bluntly. Grace is a rare good girl. She looks good. Her father is also a county magistrate. You should cherish this opportunity. Truman instantly understood. Oh, now I get it. Sawyer must have been well rewarded as a county magistrate. Thank you for the master's reminder. In due time, I will be able to buy a house in Hangzhou. This may disappoint Axel somewhat. The main issue is that Truman is too naive. How did you figure that out? You will find out soon. He arrived at Grace's house. Truman quietly waits in the guest room. Suddenly, Grace carefully carries a bowl of dragon bone soup and slowly walks over. It shows. She made it with care, just to let Truman have a taste. But Truman only used 2 simple words. Thank you. This is somewhat awkward. Grace could only force a conversation. In fact, I didn't have a habit of drinking soup in Xiaoga. But after coming to the south, I gradually started to like it. As she spoke, she was about to show her figure. Look! Recently, because I drank too much, I gained a few pounds again. Faced with such a beauty, Truman's attention is remarkable. Truly a wealthy family. Even the lapels are adorned with gold. Embarrassed Grace could only change the topic. If father had not been assassinated, I could see Truman every day. Don't you understand the implication in her words? Truman is just focusing on drinking soup. Grace can only take the initiative to attack now. She took Truman's hand. She hopes Truman will like her. The assassin could come at any time. The night is long. Would you like me to chat with you to pass the time, Truman? But Truman seemed to be shocked like being electrocuted and instantly pulled back his hand. This won't do. This time it's a professional assassin. If anything goes wrong, he will lose a large sum of bounty. Just to be safe, I'll have to review spiritual perception again later. It's getting late. Grace, you should rest early. Truman was really excessive in rejecting Grace. However, I love you so much. Truman climbed onto the roof to review spiritual perception, still marveling at the absence of strong grudges today. U-Town had spent a civilized and harmonious day. A wave of demonic energy drifted by. With a loud bang, it landed on the roof, only to see a fierce and evil appearance. A person with the appearance of a leopard appeared. Killing just one county magistrate is too boring. How about I slaughter your town instead? Who is this? It's the silver-ranked assassin from Blue Wing Tower. He is the most popular man in U-Town. He can work as a bodyguard. He can also like beautiful women. He is capable of slaying demons and eliminating evil. Truman was invited to Grace's house as a bodyguard that day. He just went up to the roof to review his lessons. An unexpected guest arrived. Just saw that leopard-like assassin. Seeing Truman, he started boasting. Little Taoist, let me show you my most powerful move. Under my fist, countless souls will perish. Saying this, the little leopard rushed towards Truman. It was secretly jubilant. Explode before my eyes. There is no more beautiful sight than flesh and blood flying. Saying this, it raised its sandbag-sized fist and smashed it heavily towards Truman, the sound as if thunder and lightning struck, resonating through the heavens. The next second, only to see the little leopard widened its eyes. It stood frozen in place, clutching its arm. It panicked and was about to flee in haste. Truman stayed in place, still as a statue. Inside, he was thinking. It came menacingly. Just to slap me. Not right. This is definitely a tactic to lure the tiger out of the mountain. I won't fall for it. But then again, if the destructive power increases 1,000-fold, wouldn't I be seriously injured? This world is truly scary. Strong people are everywhere. I must quickly cultivate to level 100 so that my safety can be guaranteed. The leopard staggered along as it fled for its life. But the next second, it collapsed on the ground. A gush of blood spurted out. It struggled to get up, coughing and doubting life. Why does this little Taoist have such a terrifying physical body? Even a mountain should tremble from my punch. But not only did he remain motionless, my strength was also doubled and rebounded back at me. That little Taoist still hasn't caught up until now. The next moment, Leopard fell to the ground. Never got up again. It seems it understood too. With just the force of rebound, he could kill me. What qualifications does a little demon like me have to let him come after me? Now my demon core is shattered. No way to turn the tide. I need to send a message to my brothers. Can't let them act rashly for revenge. Leopard struggled to write a farewell letter with his last breath, only to explain the terror of the Taoist. Don't come. The farewell letter then turned into a phoenix and flew away. Leopard's final affairs have been settled. It is time to leave. A week has passed. Truman was already impatient on the rooftop. Why hasn't the assassin from Blue Wing Tower come yet? Is its plan to let Sawyer die a natural death? At this moment, County Magistrate arrived with Grace. Truman hurriedly jumped down from the rooftop. County Magistrate began to speak. Truman's timing was perfect. He mentioned a few big men to Truman. They are all disciples of Shinshu Temple outside Xiaoga City. They have some connections with me. This time, they were specially sent to assist me. Truman comes from Yun Taoist Temple on 10 Mile Slope outside the town. The men spoke. I haven't heard of Yun Taoist Temple either. Since we are here, we will take care of Sawyer's safety. Outsiders should not intervene. Since Truman defeated Leopard, assassins haven't attacked for a long time. Several Taoists arrived that day, but they started mocking Truman as soon as they arrived. Grace couldn't bear to watch this anymore. She rushed to the front. She was going to speak up for Truman. Truman is the lifesaver of my father and me. Some of them are newcomers and may need Truman's help. Since Grace insists, we have no objections. I just feel it's unnecessary. Grace still wants to continue arguing. Truman spoke up. It's fine if I'm not needed here. I also want to go back to the Yun Taoist Temple. Grace busily rushed forward. She wanted to see Truman off, but then came the sound of someone cursing from behind. Truman finally returned to the familiar home of the Yun Taoist Temple. He hadn't been to Ghost Tower for leveling up these days. I wonder if his skills have rusted. But in the next second, Truman instantly broke out in a cold sweat. A group of beautiful women appeared before him. Truman is back. He looks quite refined. I love you. Come on. Let me give you a kiss. This scene, Truman can't handle it. He turns and runs away. After he climbed over the tall wall, he could finally catch his breath. It was too terrifying. Even scarier than 100 ghosts walking at night. At this moment, Axel came. You're finally back. I missed you so much. Also appearing at the same time was Hazel. You're back too. What's going on with you guys? How come Hazel has also become a Taoist disciple? We've heard about your great achievements these days. Many girls have come here admiring you. Axel felt that the situation at that time was indeed quite dangerous. Don't worry. When my good disciple comes back, I will make sure he goes to exorcise them. These group of girls are too energetic. My old bones and waist can't take it. Fortunately, Hazel is here to help me. When you were not around, everyone liked to find Hazel, the idol of the old women in U-Town. It's coming to an end after all. Thinking of this, Axel couldn't help but feel sad. Why do they want to find Hazel? Because I helped Aunt Lee have a great-grandson. Truman became even more puzzled. Hazel explained that Aunt Lee came to the Taoist temple because she wanted to pray for a grandson. Hazel then wished her good luck. Since then, everyone came to her to ask for some of her blessed koi talismans. They could be sold for a good amount of money. Upon hearing this, Hazel made more money again. Truman instantly thought of his own house. He picked up a koi talisman and started making a wish to buy a house in Hangzhou as soon as possible. The sound outside the door attracted everyone's attention. Truman opened the door. "Your brother, I have a money-making matter I want to ask for your help with." It turned out to be Wesley. Wesley came to the Taoist temple to look for Truman. He said he wants to introduce a big business deal to him. Looking at the Wesley, Truman, as if he was a golden ingot, couldn't help but wonder. "You've run into an evil spirit again." He turned out to be a friend of Wesley's. His name is Riker. He and Wesley were schoolmates. Truman was a bit surprised. Wesley actually went to school. You don't need to be so surprised either. After all, I am not some ignorant young master. Of course, I have to go to school. And my academic performance is quite good. The teacher at that time liked me very much. Unfortunately, his daughter liked me even more. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been kicked out. Wesley talked for a long time, but didn't get to the point. Riker currently resides in Hangzhou and returned to U-Town with his wife in the morning to visit relatives. However, when they passed Windy Mountain, his wife mysteriously disappeared. At that time, the couple were walking in the mountains. After a strange wind, a temple appeared out of nowhere on the flat ground beside them. They decided to take shelter inside. To their surprise, once they entered the temple, she vanished in the blink of an eye. Wesley thought that in recent days, there have been rumors in town about a demon on Windy Mountain, so I immediately thought of Truman. Although evil spirits have been appearing frequently recently, Truman is still capable of protecting U-Town. There's no time to lose. Let's set off immediately. The Windy Mountain on the other side. Demon had made ample preparations already. However, Piper seemed to be fascinated by Little Taoist. I observed that Little Taoist for a while, and found that besides his handsome appearance, there was nothing remarkable about him elsewhere. Besides, he has no chi. Have we got the wrong person? However, Tate doesn't care about that. The townspeople of U-Town all say he's the most powerful exorcist. If it's not him, then who else? Since we're already here, let's deal with him first. If he's not the one, we'll find another one. However, Piper's attention is all on Little Taoist. How come these two ugly creatures didn't grow such good skin? We must peel off Little Taoist's face later and treasure it. He was reborn in the canyon. Suddenly, huge rocks fell from the sky. Their only way out was blocked by the huge rocks. Truman instantly drew his sword. With one stroke, a way out appeared. They crossed the canyon. They arrived at the forest. But there is absolutely no temple they are looking for here. They can only continue to search. They walked for a long time. They once again returned to the original place. Wesley became anxious at this time. But Truman? He is still pondering a way to crack the code. In the past, he has encountered unseen questions in the exam room as well. In unfamiliar questions, familiar principles are often hidden. In no time, Truman had a sudden inspiration. He made both of them lie down. Truman then picked up the sword. He spins 360 degrees. The sleight of hand disappears in an instant. Temple also appeared. The little fox being cultivated jumped out and blocked the way for several people. They didn't back down in the slightest when they saw the little fox. Truman leaped directly, jumping over the little fox. The helpless little fox had to fart on the spot. Is this fox lacking integrity? The smell is so bad that it's like a poisonous gas. The little fox usually worships gods and Buddhas. This behavior shouldn't have happened. Perhaps the one being worshipped here is. Suddenly, a clear female voice came from inside. Riker's face changed drastically, and he suddenly lost control. It's my wife! He immediately wanted to rush into the temple. The fox was still snarling at him at the entrance of the temple. Truman had already stepped in ahead of him. The fox, realizing it couldn't stop Truman, looked around and suddenly turned into a white shadow, disappearing in a flash. Wesley outside the temple also heard the cry. He looked at Riker, whose expression changed dramatically. Truman charged into the temple, leading the way with an eager expression. However, he hesitated in his heart. The smell of the fox was so strong even from a distance. If he entered now, he might pass out immediately inside. It would be better to pretend and shout a few times. After they all entered, he could stay outside and keep watch. So he yelled loudly twice, pretending, "People inside! Quick, help!" The two of them shouted together for a while before both realizing something was amiss. They looked at each other and noticed neither had taken a step forward. Simultaneously, they thought to themselves, "Could it be that the other is also pretending?" Wesley thought, "The person inside is not your wife, so why should I endure the smell and go in? Can't you do it instead?" While Riker wondered, "Could he have figured it out?" He pointed behind Wesley and said, "Look behind you." "What?" Joking. As a Death Knight, Wesley is not afraid of a female ghost like you. Wesley turned around haphazardly and saw a stunning woman in a red dress walking towards him gracefully, as if she were a celestial beauty. He was immediately captivated and lost his soul, wanting to get closer. However, after a few more glances, he realized that something was not right. While each individual feature of the woman was perfect delicate eyebrows, a straight nose, and red lips, they seemed oddly mismatched together, as if they did not belong on the same face. Despite her flawless appearance, the red-dressed woman suddenly laughed with a tinkling voice. "It's a pity," she said, "after seeing the skin of that little Taoist, looking at other men has become somewhat boring." Upon hearing her words, Wesley, despite his foolishness, knew that this person was not to be trifled with. He cautiously smiled and replied, "You have a witty way of speaking, miss." The red-dressed woman changed the subject abruptly, her gaze becoming sharp and witty. "But I am here to skin you," she said. Boom. As soon as she finished her sentence, the black gate of the temple slammed shut with a heavy sound, causing Wesley's legs to go weak. "Don't scare me. I'm not afraid of you," he said as he took a few steps back. The woman in red seemed intent on teasing him. Wesley glanced at the tightly closed temple gate. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He puffed out his chest and said, "Am I scared? I have the nickname Death Knight. Am I afraid of a female ghost? You must be very powerful." The woman in red smiled lightly, as if she was about to make a move. Wesley quickly shouted, "Don't act rashly. The little Taoist who just went in is the nemesis of evil spirits in Utown. He and I are close friends, like brothers for life. If you dare to provoke me, I'll have him cut you down with a single sword." Before he could finish speaking, the atmosphere in the Black Temple changed dramatically. Suddenly, a deafening roar came from above. When Truman entered the temple, he saw that it was fully equipped with a black lacquered and gilded hanging tiger statue on the altar, in a crouching position, as if it was about to pounce down the mountain. The space inside the temple was extremely narrow, and one could see the end at a glance. There were no women here at all, but it was unclear who had made that delicate cry just now. Truman quickly looked around and fixed his gaze on the back of the deity statue. His pupils contracted sharply. He saw 2 rows of bloody corpses hanging on the beam, all fresh human corpses that had not yet decayed. The sight of corpses alone was not enough to move him. But the one nearest on the left in the first row, dressed in plain clothes, was clearly a literati who looked just like Riker. Without waiting for him to turn back and look outside, the temple's main gate slammed shut. Surprisingly, the gate of this temple fell heavily from above like a dam closing. In an instant, all light disappeared. The world turned pitch black. Following that, the ground beneath Truman's feet began to tremble. The entire temple shook violently. The small world within started to reveal its true form. The temple seemed to be uprooted from the ground. In the next moment, a flash of light. The entire temple transformed into a huge black tiger head. This tiger head, as if coated in black lacquer with a golden glow, radiated a menacing aura from its tiger eyes. Its pure black sharp teeth resembled frosty spears. Then, its entire body emerged from the soil. Roaring towards the sky, energy spread wildly in an overwhelming manner. Transforming into a fierce windstorm, the air was filled with nauseating coldness. Wesley was so frightened that he sat down on the ground. This turned out to be a nearly 30-foot-long giant black tiger. It burrowed its body underground, leaving only the tiger head on the ground, transforming into the temple while Truman threw himself into the tiger's mouth, which devoured him. Wesley internally cursed 3 times. He looked at Riker, the one who had led himself and Truman here all along, who now respectfully looked up at the black tiger manifesting here. It was evident that he had known all along. Only now did Wesley realize he had fallen for his deception. Suddenly, he heard a gust of wind behind him, and turned to see a tall man in heavy armor landing on the ground. His whole body was ashen, clearly not a living person. Every movement he made was extremely stiff. His sharp-nailed right hand was holding a dying fox. Though it was Wesley's first encounter with such a being, a word quickly surfaced in his mind: zombie. This fox almost ruined our plans. I wonder what connection it has with that little Taoist. Let it die alongside this little Taoist, Wesley thought aloud. The sound of the armored zombie was extremely unpleasant, like metal scraping against metal, causing Wesley to shiver involuntarily. Just as he looked over, it also glanced at him and coldly asked, "You just said that you and the little Taoist are close friends. Lifelong companionship. Is that right?" The tone was menacing. A shiver ran through Wesley's body as he forced a smile uglier than crying, saying, "Actually, we're just regular friends." He paused, then added, "We're not that close." Wesley slumped on the ground, gazing helplessly at the zombie in front of him, pondering how to escape unscathed. Perhaps he could seduce the female ghost with some handsome tactic, as it wasn't a big deal and not the first time. However, it seemed unlikely with the zombie. The huge black tiger, taking only 2 steps, approached their vicinity. It licked its lips and suddenly asked, "Why does my mouth have a strange taste?" Tate picked up the fox in his hand, and Piper quickly gave him a glance to stop him. Then said, "Beckett, don't ask, you don't want to know." Beckett's tongue, covered with thorns, licked back and forth, finding the taste more and more off-putting. At this point, small Riker beside said, "I have done as you instructed. You have also eaten that Taoist. Can you now release my wife?" Your wife Piper stepped forward. She coquettishly asked, "Take a good look at my nose. Does it resemble your wife's?" Riker stared at her face, and after a few moments, his face revealed panic as he said, "Aren't you supposed to release my wife after I finish these tasks?" Beckett mockingly laughed. "You don't really think someone I've eaten can come back to life, do you? You've been deceived." Riker felt all his strength drain from his body. He collapsed to the ground. He hadn't been concerned about his own life or death, but the news of his wife's inability to be resurrected left him utterly desolate. Beckett chuckled, revealing his sharp, white fangs.